Well, hello friends and neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome to my deck in this cool, still want to think it's summer, but this cool Sunday afternoon. I want to talk to you today about an Islay Scotch blend. This is from an independent bottler. It's AD Rattray, and this is their Cask Islay, but it is the blended malt Scotch whiskey. Thanks for staying with me through the intro. As I said very quickly, I want to talk about Islay Scotch, but it's this is an independent bottling and it's a blend. This is an independent bottler. You know, independent bottlers, they have their connections, they have their ways of getting casks from various distilleries, and then they either just hold on to them, release them at special times or special strengths, or they might blend them themselves, re-age them in different casks, treat them a little differently, and then release them. So this independent bottler, I see quite a bit in Alberta and Canada. I'm not sure how available they are worldwide, but it is fairly common in my area. Now, in the intro, and I want to be clear, this is Cask Islay, but it is the blended malt Scotch whiskey. When I went online to search for, what history could I get, how could I find out more about this bottle, I really came across the Cask Islay, but the single malt. So it was from an undisclosed single distillery, where this is where they have picked up various casks from distilleries on Islay and then blended it themselves. And on the tube itself, which is, it's nice, they don't really give any more information. Like, it just, on the back, it shows all the major distilleries on Islay and their annual capacity, but it doesn't share how they've blended it together. And that's a little disappointing. I really love transparency in my whiskey journey here, and I wish they'd put a little more. But I applaud them for releasing it unchill filtered. And I will say, if you look at the color on here, this very light straw, very light, I would feel pretty confident saying this is uncolored, and certainly it's non-chill filtered. Well, let's see what we get in the whiskey itself. Give it a nose. When you first approach this Scotch, I think you're really going to find that smoke quality is going to come. It's going to greet you when you're pouring it. It's going to come up quick first on the glass. It has a very smoky characteristic on the nose. When you're trying to move through that, I think you're going to get light sugars, honeys, grain sugars. A little bit of almost a grassy or some other light note. Yeah, maybe that's some of the peat in a little bit of that grass note. If there's fruit, it's whatever is very sweet fruit for you. A very light, crisp apple or a pear. So light. There is some sweetness, but when you first get at it, a lot of smoke is going to come your way. And a little bit of alcohol will greet you as well. Let's see how it tastes. Sláinte. Palate on this is a little bit aggressive. By that, the nose is smoky, and the first thing you're going to get probably off that sip is a fair amount of, charred wood, and really almost an ash, end of the fire. Like you're sitting around a campfire with your friends, and you're on the side where the smoke is coming your way. So the nose is quite smoky, and the first characteristic that I get, and the last one I'm left with is kind of an ashy wood. But if you stick with it, I'm going to give another quick sip to try to get at it. So there are other layers in here, and if you kind of work your way through the smoke and that ash quality, you will get a light sweet vanilla, honey, yeah, and a gentleness into the grain quality. But the finish is a little bit drying and kind of takes you back into that end of the campfire. So there are some good tastes in here, and I will say it coats well in the mouth. And if you're looking for a very smoky, Scotch, I think this could be a good value. I'll tell you a bit more about how I came across it. But it's blended malt, 46% unchill filtered or non-chill filtered, and I appreciate that. It's a little too, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but it's really pushing that. It's so strong on the smoke and ash that I think it hides some of the qualities that are there, but you really have to hunt for them. So it only gets to about a 3.5 star for me, which is pretty low for peated Scotch. I definitely enjoy my peated Scotch. Then I thought, I better pour it against something that I have that's at least in the same style. So I thought I would pour, the Peat Monster from John Glazer and the Compass Box Whiskey Company. If you haven't heard me talk about these guys before, you really should go to their website. I think that really gives you a sense, okay, who are these people? And I think who they are is transparency. I think they really want people to not just enjoy their scotches, of course they do, but they want to have people understand what they're drinking. And when you go to the website on Peat Monster, it tells you exactly the percentages of this Islay malt and that Islay malt, and then how they're casked and everything. And I really appreciate that. It's just certainly a whiskey geek's dream kind of release and website. But why I thought this would be an appropriate comparison is, this is 46%, same percentage, and it's also a blended malt Scotch whiskey. And so I thought, well, that would be a fair kind of, at least pretty fair style. This nose, while if it's your first peated malt of the night, you will say, oh, it's smoky and all those kinds of things I was saying. But in contrast to what I was just working on, this nose actually has far deeper fruit and a broader nose to it. Like, I'm already thinking, oh, is that some nutty quality in the wood, or is that, in the fruit? You might even say, I don't think, I should have looked up, I don't think there's any sherried malts in here, but the fruit can lengthen into some of those other fruits you might get. Juicier nose, if I can say that. But still an earthy quality, certainly lots of peat, and there is some smoke, but it's just that the other fruity notes come up just so much quicker. Let's give it a little taste. Quite a bit more in the palate. Here, I'm actually getting some different spices, some baking spices, and things that I think are coming from the different casking. And the quality of the malt comes through. It actually sticks around a little longer, before the finish starts coming, and the finish brings some sugars and some oakiness. As I said, the peat here is definitely present, but it's an earthier cooking of the fruits, roasting of things. Yeah, it's a better malt, and yeah, there's definitely more layers, more flavors. It's a juicier malt. Now I'll say, this independent bottling, 80 Rattray Cask Islay, but the blended malt, is still an interesting blended Scotch. If you're looking for a very smoky and very cooked campfire thing, it's tough to go wrong with that, especially it goes in and out of clearance in my area, and I cannot explain that. Right now, just because I like to know, I went and checked a few websites, and it's up around almost $80. It's just not worth that. But I picked up this bottle for $30. It's completely worth that. So I can't tell you to go out and chase it, but if you like that smoke and ash, I think you'll actually be quite happy with this. It certainly finishes off your evening well. Okay, thanks for joining me here on the deck. Looks like it might rain a little bit. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Take care.